This is the Swarm and Shoot Football Show with me, Manny Matsakis, the head football coach at Defiance College. We feature Defiance College football and everything that influences our program. This show is brought to you by our friends at Big Beat Coffee right across campus on North Clinton Street. I'm actually having a cup right now, so everybody check it out on YouTube, and you can see the video of the cup and how delicious this beverage is. Get the finest coffee beverages, even tea, in Defiance, as well as great pastries, breakfast sandwiches to start your day off, and you can even get a pick-me-up like a lot of our coaching staff does in the afternoon. I'd also like to bring on board the maker of this fine apparel right here, and not just Nike, but we're talking about BSN Sports, all right? I'd like to bring on board our latest sponsor, BSN Sports, and Rob Held and his sales team are the professionals you need to get in touch with for all your sporting goods and apparel needs in Ohio. Not only do they work with high school and college sports teams, they also deliver outstanding apparel to businesses so they can brand themselves in a first-class manner. This episode is number 42. Today's topic is the current state of American football as we know it. And I think on this Swarm and Shoot football show, it's interesting for us as coaches to be dealing with a few things regarding the pandemic. And I know we've done some creative things along the way to help us out, but I believe you've got to put yourself in a situation where you take a look at history, look at some things over time, and see just how that may affect you in the future. But let me give you an introduction. Article I read the other day by Chantel Jennings from the website The Athletic. All right? And the topic of the article that she wrote is A Season of Influenza and Influence: How World War I and a Pandemic in 1918 changed college football forever. You know, it's interesting. 1918, I know the other day my wife and I were watching Downton Abbey, which is a PBS Masterpiece Theater, and that was during this time. And it was interesting. They were talking about a few things with the Spanish flu and so forth. And I thought it was, pretty enlightening, and then I went and did some research, and then this article shows up. Let me give you, let me rewind things about 100 years ago. 100 years ago, as World War I was coming to a close during the fall of 1918, a flu pandemic hit the world seemingly overnight. In a span of a few months, the flu infected 1/3 of the world's population and killed an estimated 50 million people. In the United States, it seemed as though a new enemy had hit its own borders as public anxiety shifted from the fear of death through war to the fear of death through influenza. Yet, against this bleak backdrop, a college football season not only persisted in the United States, but also worked to spread the game in a way that changed it forever. As top college athletes enlisted in the war efforts and universities struggled to find enough bodies to field teams, more players who otherwise wouldn't have had the opportunity to play at the college level were given a chance to participate. The sport became less of an elitist pastime and more of an everyman's game. College football became seen as more American as military training camps put together teams to face off against themselves and universities. And when the flu ultimately passed and congregating was again allowed around the country, the communal feel of a football game proved valuable. When Walter Camp sat down to write his review of the 1918 football season for Spalding's official football guide, he summarized the season like this: The football season of 1918 was one of the most peculiar in the whole history of the game, and yet it will stand as an epic-making one in the progress of the sport. By the end of this strange season, the two teams that split the national championship, Fielding Yost's Michigan group and Pop Warner's Pitt team, had played just 5 games apiece. And with only one played before November because of war and the flu. I think 1918 is a season that a lot of people have forgotten about. But if you put it within a slightly broader context, it's that the war effectively helps transform the game of college football. Sports historian S.W. Pope said it becomes a national sport. Now, that's an excerpt from this wonderful article here. And, you look today and you start to notice a few things to how everything's being perceived right now. And, I start to look at, here's a headline for you: College sports bleak financial future in the wake of coronavirus pandemic apparent in AD survey. Now, this particular article here is from CBS Sports, and I found it online, and it's interesting to see just where athletic directors, these power brokers up there in the Power Five group and the big universities are out there, and they're taking a look at how this is going to affect everything. And I think it's, the point being made here, all of this hints at a possible future that includes cutting sports, slashing salaries, laying off staff, and weighing ability to fully fund existing sports if the finances become too tight. I think when you look at this, there's quite a bit to it, but that's one particular article that I found. Another one here, about the coronavirus. You hit this one, and it just sort of I don't know, it's just interesting the way it's going. It says here, we're all effed. There's no other way to look at this, is there? Administrators and insiders weigh in as the coronavirus threatens the college football season and explain why the entire NCAA system could hang in the balance. And that is what is really intriguing to me, because you're talking about the entire NCAA system. And when you think of it that way, here we are at Defiance College, Division III football, Heartland Conference, and there are more Division III football programs than there are any other level. There's a lot of colleges playing Division III football. Yet, in many ways, we are waiting to see where a lot of these major universities are deciding the outcome of where football is going to be, and other sports, as you've seen in these articles that I'm mentioning here. I believe that we have a tremendous opportunity here at Defiance College. And even though we're sitting waiting, just like everybody else is waiting, what I've been fortunate enough to do is I've talked to some of these guys that I know that are athletic directors at these Power Five schools, people that are the influencers, the people out there that are saying that they are waiting to see what's going to happen. We probably won't know a lot about this in particular, but there are a few items on the agenda because everybody is working out contingency plans. So when we find out about a variety of things, I know that it was interesting. The thing that really kicked this thing off about 3 or 4 weeks ago was Kirk Herbstreit basically saying, look, we're probably not going to be playing football. And that started it all off. And he based it on when we would have some type of way to deal with this on a broad perspective, on basically, what is it that we've got to take? What will our medical field have ready for us? Be it a shot of some sort, an antibiotic, which probably isn't the case because it's a virus, but there's all different type of things. Our researchers are looking for things out there that and then to mass produce it. And he's saying, well, based on that, a vaccine isn't going to be ready to be able to play the game. So Kirk hit it off, and then there was all types of on each side of this saying, oh, we're going to play right now. We've got all types of different opinions out there and so forth. But really, what I want to discuss right now for you, and at least just to put it in your mind, is when are we going to play? Why is it important that we play, and how this affects the major colleges and trickles down to small college level. And so if you look at it with all this pandemic, the landscape today says that we don't know when. What I keep hearing is that sometime end of May, early June, there will be meetings that basically set set the table for what it is we're going to be heading into next. And that is, what's interesting to me. So how does this bleak financial outlook that you're talking about here affect us? And what's the trickle-down effect to our level as you start to look at it? And you look at some things right now at the bigger levels, you have, we did cancel March Madness, and that also trickles down because a percentage of the funds go down to the Division III level. So this is an NCAA system that there is revenue that exists of that. Now, the financial outlook is significant at that level. You've got it to the point right now where I thought it was very interesting that you start to look at some things here. Like here's a graphic here, a 2017-18 LSU athletics budget. And what does that mean for us? Well, it could mean quite a lot. Because if you start to look at this screen here that I have, and I'll, for people just listening on our podcast player, I'll describe this to you. It's basically a revenue by sport at a major university, in this case, LSU. And when you look at this, you see like LSU football, their net gain, all right, or loss is what they're taking every sport they've got there. And you take a look at football, it's $55 million gain. All right, the next biggest sport there is basketball, men's basketball. And you've got, in that case, you've got two other sports that are making money. Men's basketball, $292,000, and even making more than that at LSU, which is very uncommon at this level, is baseball. They make $345,000. So $345,000, $292,000 for men's basketball, and then you got football making $55 million. This is I've spoken to a couple friends of mine, one particular that was a Big 12 athletic director, and said this is not uncommon. Everything is driven by football at that level. And when that happens, you have to start looking. Here is at LSU the losses made by some of the other sports, so everybody has an idea. Women's basketball, $4.2 million loss. You've got a golf program losing $892,000 in the men, $735,000 the women. You've got a gymnastics program there, $2.4 million loss. Soccer, $1.6 million loss. Softball, $2.6 million loss. And this goes on and on. Track and field, if you take a look at men's and women's track and field, right there's over $4 million, over $5 million of loss between those two sports. So all of these sports are losing a tremendous amount of money at these major colleges. And what has come up, as I've spoken to a couple of these power brokers that they're called today, is you've got a situation right now that we've lost money because of March Madness. Departments all over the country are changing as many ways as they can. They're adjusting their budgetary outlooks and so forth. But the scary part for some of this is I have heard and seen where athletic directors are looking at this. If we don't play college football at that level, in the 2020 academic year, this season, then they're basically putting ourselves in a situation. We're putting ourselves in a situation where a lot of these sports will not exist at major college and at that level, at the Division I level that we're talking about here. They're talking about dropping sports that are considered non-revenue. And they're also talking about decreasing the sheer number of sports that is required by Division I athletic departments. So what that means is, let's say it's decided, look, all we want to do is keep Title IX in place between men and women opportunities. Then what's going to happen is, and this is a quote from that I've been hearing out there, is you've got football, which is going to make the revenue. You've got men's basketball, which at some schools makes a little more, a little less, but can make money. And then there might be an outlier sport that they may keep. And then from there, you're going to keep some female sports, and you're going to drop a whole lot of men's sports. And so you can decrease everything because it is a budgetary issue where you're running this as a business. And that's what's happening right now. Those types of discussions are being had. What if we don't play college football? What if we don't? They already know that the revenue may be changed from them. There's also a talk of, if we play college football, where a lot of people will love to see this, of increasing the number of teams in the college football playoff, because that would increase the revenue. You could go to 8 teams, 16 teams down the road. And if that is negotiated and it's set up, because that's what the major networks want. It's just some of the presidents in the past have not wanted that, because the sheer revenue, from what I have heard, if you take football and you just take it to 16 teams, the revenue it would produce in a playoff capacity, let alone what you could do with 32, as Mike Leach likes, 64 teams. If you do that, he goes, it would eclipse March Madness and make it look like a high school state championship. That's how much revenue they're sitting out there. So I think right now this stuff's on the table. So we'll see where this goes. But as you look at it, it is intriguing where this may go. So, that's the major college level. Now, as far as us and what we're dealing with here is Division III is a tuition revenue-based model. We don't have athletic scholarships. We only give academic scholarships and the like, and some participation scholarships for different non-athlete related things that people are dealing with. Like could be going. We can give scholarships in areas like music and so forth, but it's not going to happen in football or any other sport. Now, what's interesting is that this Division III model, with it being tuition revenue based, the opportunity that lies there for us is that if the rosters can carry the load, in other words, get an increase in roster size, depending on the college and where athletics lies in the total revenue piece. And at Defiance College, athletics is a significant portion of the total student population. So it's evident that raising that level on rosters is important. So if you have an idea, we'll be heading into our 3rd season right now. And the first year I was here, albeit, and I got here in August of that season, we had, about 67, 68 guys on the roster. So it was a little late. We had lost a bunch of guys in the process of one coach to the next coach, is how that went. So, we had a very small roster. Last year we upped it a little bit and got it to 81 was our roster to start the season off. And on our roster size, I believe will, even with the pandemic and all these things going on, will increase well over 100 It could be as high as 120, somewhere in that ballpark, because our retention has gotten larger each year. And not only has that gotten larger, the roster size of recruits coming in has increased every year that we've been here. So we feel really good about that. So that's exciting for the future as we go forward. And we've got players out there that are committed to us, that are all set to go, have made their deposits, are ready to come out and play. And they're all wondering, well, when are we going to play? And they all want to know. They're all training. I see guys training in their garages, and they're out there, and, they'll put stuff on Twitter. Here I am running routes, or here I'm doing drills and so forth, which is exciting to watch this stuff on Twitter. Now, what is interesting here, and what I want to wrap up with, is what I saw an article the other day. Chris Fowler is basically saying on NBC Sports, there's informed speculation that the 2020 season could start in February. And that's this piece here. So on College Football Talk, they're looking at this, and he's going through it saying, what is going on? And he does, and he refers to Kirk Herbstreit's comments that we started all this off. And there is a little bit of optimism of when we're going to start and when we're not. But at some point, they're talking about everything regarding the vaccine, but Chris Fowler saying, there's a very good chance that the season could start in February. So we don't really know where this is going to go. If it starts in February, I would assume then you push it back, and, students would be coming on campus, because the reason that this is happening goes back to that Power 5 group of athletic directors and presidents and the decisions they're making. And they're looking at this saying, look, hey, we need a full season, because the sheer revenue, as we took a look at what LSU's revenue had been, and with all the sports, they need this just to balance the budget. If they don't, we're going to have problems. So he's saying that because in this article, he's saying that sometime in February, the season starts. Now, I know it's going to be cold in Ohio, and it's going to be different, but it would finish up. They're talking about in May or June would be the wrap up of the season, just like, they would still have the full season there. Therefore, the revenue comes. And then for the 2021 season, then there's got to be a way that they'll shift and so forth, and play in the fall and so forth. So this is just some of the things that are out there. I know it's a total speculation, but understand that at Defiance College, we are in good shape in football right now. We are increasing our roster size every year. We're excited about the opportunity and where this is going to go. So no matter what happens, whenever we play, right now, the Yellow Jackets will be ready to go. So I want to thank you very much for joining the show today as we take a look at a little bit about what is going on, and take a look back to that 1918 Spanish flu and how that affected football back then. Who knows how this is going to affect football moving forward and athletics as we know it. And I want to thank you very much for joining the podcast, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for joining us on this latest episode of the Swarm and Shoot Football Show. If you're listening to this podcast, make sure to subscribe in iTunes, give us a rating, comment on the show. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit the bell in the top corner there so you can get notifications when we release the next show. Feel free to comment below on a specific show, and we'll answer those questions as we need to. If you'd like to step up to the next level and get all kinds of updates, go to our website, swarmandshoot.com, where you'll get up-to-date alerts on all of our podcasts. You'll have the audio on there. There's actually a video player where you can scroll through each and every episode that we have of the podcast from the YouTube version. So you never really have to leave the site. You'll also see some features on various players, our coaching staff bios, all types of things going on in our program, when our golf scramble is, different fundraisers we do, just insights for you that take you to that next level, which is what swarmandshoot.com will do for you. Take a minute and subscribe with your email. When you log on, there'll actually probably be a pop-up about 6 seconds into it, and it gives you a chance to go in, and that will put you into our email database. So every time we update, you get an email knowing that we're basically set to go on the next episode of the podcast or any news that's coming out. Appreciate you supporting the program, and look forward to a wonderful season.